Black girl slips a note into Adam Sandler's pocket. He reads it and can't hold back the tears. Kiana Jefferson clutched her sketchbook tightly as she stood outside the New York City cafe where, according to her cousin's text, Adam Sandler occasionally grabbed coffee. At 14, she wasn't normally starstruck, but today was different. Today, she had a mission. The autumn air carried a chill that penetrated her thin jacket. 5 months of chemotherapy had left her perpetually cold, her once thick braids now replaced by a colorful head wrap. Her mother, Tasha, waited patiently. Nearby, concern etched on her face. "You sure you want to do this, baby? He might not even show up," Tasha said, checking her watch. They'd been waiting for nearly an hour. "I'm sure, Mom. Just 30 more minutes?" Kiana pleaded. The doctors had given her good news last week. The treatments were working, but the battle wasn't over. Throughout the hardest days, Adam Sandler's movies had been her escape, particularly 50 First Dates, which she'd watched countless times in the hospital. Tasha nodded, unable to deny her daughter anything these days. They'd traveled from Philadelphia for this chance encounter, making it a day trip to coincide with Kiana's appointment at a specialist clinic nearby. When the door to the cafe swung open and Adam Sandler emerged, wearing a casual hoodie and basketball shorts despite the cool weather, Kiana froze. He was talking on his phone, laughing in that signature way that had brightened so many of her hospital afternoons. "That's him," she whispered unnecessarily. "Mom, I can't." "You can," Tasha urged gently. "Remember what Dr. Powell said about facing fears?" Gathering her courage, Kiana approached as Adam ended his call. Her heart thundered in her chest. "Excuse me, Mr. Sandler?" Her voice came out smaller than intended. He turned, his expression shifting to a warm smile. "Hey there, how's it going?" "I'm Kiana, Words failed her. Rather than speaking, she reached into her pocket and pulled out the carefully folded note she'd written and rewritten a dozen times. "This is for you." As she slipped the note into his hand, their fingers briefly touched. His were warm despite the chill. "Thanks," he said, accepting it with a curious glance. "Should I read it now or—" "Now, if that's okay," she managed, her voice steadier. Adam unfolded the paper, and Kiana watched his expression change as he read her words. She'd written about the lonely nights in the hospital, how his movies had given her something to look forward to, how they'd made her laugh when nothing else could. She'd explained how 50 First Dates had taught her about loving each day as it comes, a lesson particularly meaningful during cancer treatment. When he looked up, his eyes were glistening. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and hugged her gently. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "This means more than you know." In that moment, Kiana knew the trip had been worth it, regardless of what came next. Back in Philadelphia 3 days later, Kiana sat in her oncology ward's recreation room, lazily sketching while waiting for her treatment. The door opened, and her favorite nurse, Jackie, appeared with an unusual smile. "Someone sent you something?" Jackie announced, wheeling in a cart laden with packages. Confused, Kiana set aside her sketchbook. The first package contained a personalized script from 50 First Dates with a handwritten note from Adam Sandler. For Kiana, who knows exactly how to make each day count. "Your friend Adam." The second box held DVDs of his entire filmography, including unreleased behind-the-scenes footage. The third contained a high-quality digital drawing tablet. Somehow he'd learned about her artistic aspirations. How did he even find me? Kiana wondered aloud, fingers tracing the tablet's surface reverently. Jackie shrugged. "Famous people have ways, I guess. Your mom might know more." When Tasha arrived an hour later, she explained, "After you gave him that note, he asked for my contact information. I thought maybe he'd send an autograph or something small. I had no idea." That evening, as Kiana explored her new tablet, her phone chimed with an email notification. The message contained a video from Adam. "Hey, Kiana," his familiar voice began. "I wanted to thank you for your note. It was exactly what I needed that day. I'd just gotten some tough news about a project. Falling through, and your words put everything in perspective." He continued, explaining that he'd spoken with her mother and doctors with permission and learned about her artistic talents and treatment journey. "I'm working on an animated project next year," he said. "If you're feeling up to it, I'd love to have you intern with the design team remotely. No pressure, just something to think about." The video ended with him promising to check in occasionally if that was okay with her. That night, despite the lingering nausea from treatment, Kiana felt something new blossoming, not just hope, which had always been there in some measure, but possibility. Her chance encounter had opened a door she never knew existed. When Dr. Powell stopped by for evening rounds, he found Kiana sketching energetically on her new tablet. "Someone's feeling inspired," he observed, checking her vitals. "I met Adam Sandler," she replied, not looking up from her drawing. A cartoon version of herself, standing tall and healthy, braids restored, next to a goofy caricature of the actor. "Doctor." Powell raised an eyebrow. "And how did that happen?" As Kiana recounted the story, she realized that for the first time in months, she'd gone a full day without thinking about cancer statistics or worrying about her next scan results. By December, Kiana's story had spread throughout the children's oncology ward. What had begun as a private connection transformed into something larger when Adam arranged a virtual visit with the entire floor. Hospital administrators set up the recreation room with a large screen where Adam appeared, wearing a ridiculous holiday sweater and a fake beard. "Ho ho ho, it's Santa Sandler," he announced to peals of laughter from the young patients. For over an hour, he answered questions, performed improvised comedy bits, and previewed clips from his upcoming film. Kiana observed from the back of the room, marveling at how easily he connected with each child, making them feel individually seen. When a 7-year-old boy named Marcus asked if being famous was fun, Adam grew thoughtful. "Sometimes," he replied. "But you know what's actually fun? Moments like this, connections like the one Kiana and I have. That's the real good stuff." The virtual visit concluded with Adam announcing he'd arranged for a screening of his new family movie at the hospital, weeks before its theatrical release. Later that evening, Kiana received a text from him. "You started something big today. Your courage is contagious." What exactly had she started, Kiana wondered. She'd simply reached out to someone whose work had helped her through difficult times. The answer came the following week when a local Philadelphia news station contacted her for an interview. They wanted to feature her story as part of a segment on meaningful celebrity encounters. Initially reluctant, Kiana consulted with Adam, who encouraged her to share her experience if she felt comfortable. "Your story might inspire other kids to reach out, not necessarily to celebrities, but to anyone whose work has touched them," he suggested. With her parents' support, Kiana agreed to the interview under the condition that it focus on the importance of finding joy during difficult times rather than sensationalizing her illness or the celebrity connection. The reporter, a compassionate woman named Sasha Williams, honored this request, producing a thoughtful piece that aired just before Christmas. The segment highlighted Kiana's artwork, including designs she'd begun developing for the animated project, now officially in pre-production. What none of them anticipated was how quickly the story would spread. By New Year's, Kiana had received hundreds of messages from other young cancer patients and their families, all sharing their own stories of finding comfort in art, film, music, and unexpected connections. "You've started a movement," her father remarked one evening, helping her sort through the messages. Kiana shook her head. Not a movement, a conversation. That distinction felt important to her. She hadn't set out to become an inspiration or start anything significant. She'd simply reached out in a moment of vulnerability, and someone had reached back. January brought heavy snow to Philadelphia and unwelcome news to the Jefferson household. Kiana's latest scan showed new growth. The cancer was fighting back. The treatment plan needed adjustment, more aggressive chemotherapy, possibly radiation. On the day she received the news, Kiana shut down her tablet mid-design and curled into herself, a position her body remembered all too well. When her phone chimed with Adam's weekly check-in text, she couldn't bring herself to respond. 3 days passed, in a fog of disappointment and fear. Kiana skipped the online design meetings, ignored messages, and refused to touch her sketchbook. On the 4th day, a delivery arrived, a small box containing a DVD with a handwritten label. For Kiana, watch when ready. Curiosity eventually overcame her reluctance. When she finally played it that evening, Adam's face appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a hotel room. "Hey, Kiana, your mom told me about the scan results," he began softly. "I'm not going to say I understand exactly what you're feeling, because I don't. But I do know what it's like when life takes a swing at you when you least expect it." He shifted, and the camera angle widened to reveal several other people in the room. Actors, directors, and artists Kiana recognized from films and projects she admired. "We all have stories about setbacks," Adam continued, "and we thought maybe hearing some of them might help." One by one, these successful individuals shared deeply personal stories of failure, illness, rejection, and loss. They spoke honestly about moments they'd wanted to give up, times when the path forward seemed impossible. The last to speak was an animation director Kiana particularly admired. "The project you've been contributing to? It's still waiting for you," she said. "No deadlines, no pressure. Art doesn't disappear when we take breaks from it, it waits." As the video ended, Adam returned to the screen alone. "Whatever you're feeling right now is valid," he said. "Be angry, be scared, be whatever you need to be. But know that all these people and me, we're waiting when you're ready. No rush." That night, Kiana didn't suddenly feel better. The fear remained, along with the crushing disappointment. But something else emerged alongside these feelings, a quiet determination. The next morning, she pulled out her tablet and began a new series of sketches. Raw, emotional drawings depicting the reality of cancer treatment. No sugarcoating, no inspirational messaging, just truth. When she finally responded to Adam's texts, she attached these new drawings with a simple message. "This is where I am right now." His response came quickly. "These are powerful. Thank you for sharing them. No platitudes, no forced positivity, just acknowledgement." It was exactly what she needed. Spring arrived, bringing cherry blossoms to Philadelphia's parks, and tentatively, good news to Kiana. The aggressive treatment protocol was working. The new growth had stopped and showed signs of regression. Though physically taxing, the past months had been creatively productive. Working from her hospital bed or home on low energy days, Kiana had developed an entire character lineup for the animated project, now officially titled New Day Rising. Her raw sketches about cancer treatment had evolved into a personal graphic novel project, with encouragement from both Adam and her new mentors in the animation industry. On a surprisingly warm April afternoon, Tasha entered Kiana's room with an envelope. "Special delivery," she announced, trying to sound casual despite her obvious excitement. Inside was an invitation to the private screening of New Day Rising in New York, still months from completion, but with a rough cut ready for the creative team to review. "But I've only designed characters," Kiana protested. "I'm not really part of the creative team." Tasha raised an eyebrow. "According to this invitation, you are." 2 weeks later, with her doctor's approval, Kiana found herself in a small Manhattan screening room surrounded by animators, voice actors, and production staff. Adam greeted her with a warm hug. "The character designs are just the beginning," he explained, leading her to a special seat. "Wait until you see what they did with your story concepts." Confused, Kiana watched as the lights dimmed. The film opened with a scene remarkably similar to their first meeting, a young black girl approaching a distracted adult outside a cafe. But this wasn't a biopic. It was something more nuanced. The filmmakers had taken the emotional core of Kiana's experience and transformed it into a story about connection, creativity, and resilience in the face of life's uncertainties. When the lights came up 80 minutes later, Kiana found herself speechless. She'd known her designs were being used, but not how centrally her story had inspired the narrative. As the team discussed technical aspects of the film, Adam pulled her aside and handed her an envelope. "Your note changed things for me," he said, quietly. "It reminded me why I do this, not for reviews or box office numbers, but for moments of real connection, for making something that matters to even one person during a tough time." He gestured toward the envelope. I wrote one back. Later that night, in the privacy of her hotel room, Kiana finally read his note, a heartfelt letter thanking her for her courage, acknowledging her artistic talent, and offering her a full-time position on his production company's animation team after graduation, should she want it. The letter concluded, "People will see this film and be moved by it, but few will know its real origin story. A brave girl who reached out on a chilly New York morning and changed the trajectory of many lives, including mine." Kiana carefully folded the note and placed it in her sketchbook, a tangible reminder that even the smallest acts of connection can ripple outward in ways we never anticipate. The next morning, as she prepared to return to Philadelphia, her phone chimed with a familiar notification. It was an email from the hospital's child life coordinator. Several patients had asked if Kiana would consider teaching an art workshop when she felt strong enough. Without hesitation, she replied, "I'd be honored. Let's set a date." Some notes, she realized, continued to be written long after the ink has dried.